I'll never forget the way the entire room froze when the projector lit up behind me. Imagine this. It's the annual holiday gala at my Manhattan law firm. There are over 100 well-dressed colleagues, my bosses, friends, and sitting at a table near the front, my entire family, including my little sister, Brittany. The room is buzzing with laughter, glasses clinking, Christmas music humming in the background. Then, everything stops. On the giant screen, a scanned legal document appears, a loan agreement for $250,000. Right there, under borrower's signature, is my name, Jessica Miller. Except, I never signed it. And that's when Brittany stands up, her voice echoing across the marble floor. You think you're so perfect, Jessica. You think this family revolves around you. All I did was take back what I deserve. Her words slice through the silence. My parents go pale. And as dozens of eyes turn to me, I realize the truth. I am standing in the middle of a family disaster. One that might cost me not only my job, but everything I have ever worked for. But let me back up a little, because this story is much bigger than one shocking night. What Brittany did with a single forged signature almost destroyed my life, my career, my reputation, my future. What she didn't realize is that I was about to fight back in a way that no one in my family ever expected. I'm Jessica Miller. I'm 32. A litigation attorney in New York City. And for most of my life, I was the responsible one, the daughter who never said no, who always cleaned up everyone else's mess. But nothing prepared me for the betrayal that unfolded this past year. It started small. Brittany, my younger sister, was always a little wild, loved attention, loved getting her way. She'd somehow transformed that energy into an influencer career, flooding Instagram with photos of glamorous parties and shopping sprees. Always living on the edge. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, doted on her, always ready with money and excuses. Me, I was the stable one, the fallback plan for everyone else's chaos. But even as I juggled client meetings and court deadlines, I never saw it coming the moment Brittany would cross a line so big. She would nearly take me down with her. That night at the firm's gala, when the documents flashed across the screen, the stakes couldn't have been higher. $250,000 in fraudulent loans. All in my name. My credit destroyed. My job hanging by a thread. My family in shock. I'd been set up as the villain in my own story. But what nobody knew was how far I'd go to turn things around. This isn't just about money. It's about betrayal, quiet revenge, and what it takes to finally stand up for yourself, even when it means tearing your own family apart. So, how did it come to this? And what did I do when my whole world started to unravel? Stick with me. The next part of this story will show you exactly how deep the betrayal went and how I uncovered secrets that shattered everything I thought I knew about my own blood. Let me tell you a bit about myself before everything blew up. I'm Jessica Miller, 32 years old, senior associate at a major law firm in Manhattan. If you'd seen me in my old family photos, you'd spot me right away, the one holding the cake at Brittany's birthday, the one in the background of every holiday, smiling politely, never the center of attention. That's how it always was. I grew up in a modest apartment in Queens with my parents, Tom and Linda Miller, and my little sister, Brittany, who is 4 years younger than me. My parents worked hard running a small corner store, scraping by just enough to give us what we needed, at least. That's what everyone thought. The truth was what Brittany wanted. Brittany got. She was the beautiful one. The wild one. If she wanted ballet lessons, she got them. Even if it meant I wore the same sneakers for 2 years. She got the big birthday parties. The designer jeans. The fancy haircuts. I remember one Christmas. I'd spent months dropping hints about a second-hand laptop so I could study. Brittany opened up a brand new phone. I unwrapped a pair of socks. My mom just smiled and said, "You're so practical. Jess, that's why you're going to do great things one day." It was always my job to understand. To forgive. To give way. I babysat Brittany. Did her homework when she was too busy going out. When she crashed the family car. I was the one who helped cover the deductible. Working late shifts during law school just to help pay it off. But none of that made me bitter not. Then. Anyway. I loved my sister. I believed that family came first. I believed that if I just kept being good. Kept showing up. One day, things would even out. I worked my way through college. Then law school. Mostly on scholarships and late nights waiting tables. By the time I was 27, I was helping pay the mortgage on my parents' house while Brittany was still finding herself. When Brittany started calling herself an influencer and posting photos of luxury hotels, brand new handbags, and pool parties, I didn't really get it. It all seemed like a game. Like she was trying to live some fantasy. My parents just beamed at her. "She's a star," my mom would say. "If only you'd relax a little, Jessica." But the truth is, all the responsibility made me a little rigid. Maybe a little distant. I'd worked so hard for stability that I forgot how easy it was to lose everything. Sometimes I think that's why Brittany did what she did. Maybe she resented how hard I worked. How straight my path seemed compared to hers. There were early warning signs. Little requests for money. Excuses for missed rent. Tears about no one believing in her. Once, my mom called in a panic. "Jess, Brittany needs help with her taxes. Can you just sign this for her?" I refused. Of course. I thought that was the end of it. Looking back, I realize now that the role my family gave me, the fixer, the provider, made me the perfect target. When you always say yes, people stop asking. They start taking. And sometimes, the people who say they love you most are the ones who can hurt you worst. If you've ever been the responsible one in your family, you know the feeling. The silent pressure. The invisible contracts. The unspoken debts. You just hope that one day someone will see all you've given. That day never came for me. In fact, it turned out my greatest act of sacrifice was about to become my greatest regret. But before I get to the part where my life started to unravel, I want you to understand what I was risking. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. About identity. About losing the very foundation I'd built my life on. What came next shattered every illusion I had about family and forced me to make choices I never thought I could. After that holiday party, you might think the unraveling started right then. But the truth is, the first cracks appeared months earlier, subtle. Almost invisible. Unless you were really paying attention. It began with a single email from my bank. Unusual activity detected. Please contact us regarding recent loan applications. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe someone had tried to open a credit card in my name. Annoying. But not the end of the world. I was used to handling problems. I was the problem solver. After all. But then, another email this time. about a loan application for $50,000. Then another for $100,000. My stomach dropped. None of these were mine. I called the bank. They asked if I'd co-signed any recent loans or authorized anyone to act on my behalf. I said no. Of course not. I worked at a law firm. I knew how serious this was. Then came the call from Human Resources at my office. My firm runs routine background and credit checks for attorneys. Jessica, we noticed a significant drop in your credit score. Are you aware of any outstanding debts or new accounts? Panic clawed at my chest. My entire career depended on my integrity. A bad credit report could mean losing everything I'd spent a decade building. I tried to get answers from my family. My mom insisted she didn't know anything, Jess. You're always worrying too much. Brittany would never do anything to hurt you. My dad avoided my calls. Brittany herself barely replied to my messages, only posting more photos of herself, sipping champagne in rooftop bars. That's when the bills started arriving. Letters addressed to me, some from banks I'd never heard of, some from collection agencies, threatening legal action. The total was staggering. $250,000. My mind raced. How could anyone take out that much in loans without my knowledge? I'd always guarded my personal information carefully. But then, I remembered the day my mother called, asking if I could just sign a form for Brittany. I'd refused. But had someone forged my signature? It was then that the isolation began to sink in. Friends at work noticed I was distracted. My boyfriend, Mark. I grew frustrated with my anxiety and late nights. It's probably a mix-up. Jess, just call the bank. It'll work out. But I knew it was more than that. One night, desperate and exhausted, I reached out to Emma, my best friend since college, and now a fellow attorney. Emma listened quietly, then said something that stuck with me. You need to find out exactly what happened. And you need to protect yourself, even if it means questioning your own family. That night, I lay awake replaying every conversation, every family gathering, every small request for help that now felt like a warning sign I'd ignored. Mini hook. But the real shock came when I discovered a voicemail. Brittany, laughing with a friend, bragging about how easy it was to get what she wanted from me. That was the moment I stopped hoping for an innocent explanation. That was the moment I realized my own family had made me a target. And the betrayal went much deeper than I'd ever feared. But as painful as that realization was, I wasn't ready to confront anyone yet. First, I needed proof. I needed to know just how far they'd gone and how much of my life was now hanging in the balance. What I did next changed everything. I decided right then that if my family was going to treat me like an outsider, I would become one, at least for a little while. I couldn't rely on anyone else to save me. So I did what any desperate attorney would do. I started building my case. The first thing I did was hire a private investigator. His name was Frank, a former NYPD detective with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. I handed him a folder filled with suspicious letters, bank statements, and screenshots of Brittany's Instagram stories, where she flaunted her new designer handbags and trips to Miami. Find out everything you can about these loans. And I want to know exactly who signed those documents, I told him. Frank gave a slow, knowing nod. Don't worry. Paper trails always lead somewhere. Meanwhile, at work, things got tense. My firm's human resources department scheduled a meeting to discuss my sudden credit crisis. In the legal world, reputation is everything. A ruined credit score can cost you your license, your clients, even your job. I could feel the whispers in the hallway. What's going on with Jessica? My stomach twisted every time my phone buzzed. At home, the sense of isolation grew heavier. My boyfriend, Mark, tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in his eyes. What if it was just a mistake, he asked one night, scrolling through his phone while I pored over statements at the kitchen table. People make mistakes, Jess. Families screw up. But he didn't know the half of it. Emma, my best friend, was the only one who truly believed something sinister was happening. She started helping me dig running names through legal databases, checking signatures, even coaching me on what to say if things got worse at work. And they did get worse. The investigator called after a week with news that made my blood run cold. Jessica. Not only were the loan documents forged, but the notary on 2 of them. That's your father's old friend from the corner store. It looks like your family helped Brittany pull this off. I sat in my office, the city lights blurring through the window, trying to catch my breath. At the same time, I started listening to every voicemail, digging up old group chats, and rereading texts I'd ignored the first time. That's when I found the recording Brittany's voice. Tipsy and careless, joking with a friend. My sister is such a control freak. She doesn't even realize when I use her info. Anyway, what's she gonna do? Sue her own family. Her friend laughs. But Brittany keeps going. It's not like she needs all that money anyway. She has that fancy lawyer job. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. The people who were supposed to love me were exploiting me behind my back. My parents, Brittany, even their friends, they all saw me as nothing more than a bank account. Not a daughter. Not a sister. Just a resource. I wanted to confront them right then. To scream. To demand answers. But something inside me went quiet instead. The part of me that always wanted peace, that always forgave, finally grew silent. In its place was a steely determination. The next day, HR called me in again. Jessica, unless this is resolved soon, the partners are concerned about your ongoing cases. Financial instability is a red flag. I nodded, biting my tongue. I couldn't let my career slip away after everything I'd survived. That night, Emma stayed late at my apartment, helping me sort evidence. If you don't protect yourself, Jess, no one else will. Not your family. Not this firm. Only you. I realized she was right. I had to stop hoping for a miracle. Or an apology. I needed to move forward with facts, not feelings. Mini hook. And just when I thought I'd reached rock bottom, my investigator found something I never expected: an email chain between my parents and the bank, confirming they'd vouched for Brittany's identity, knowing full well it wasn't me. My own parents had chosen sides. That discovery hurt more than anything Brittany ever did. I felt like a stranger in my own life, surrounded by people I could no longer trust. But as devastating as that was, it gave me the final piece of leverage I needed. With evidence in hand, it was time to go on the offensive. I wasn't going to let my family destroy everything I'd worked for. They'd taken enough, and I was just getting started. The day everything changed was the annual holiday party at my law firm, a big data, glamorous event at a Manhattan hotel. It was a night people looked forward to for weeks: the free-flowing wine, the laughter, the speeches from partners, the sense that, for one night, the whole world paused to celebrate. It was also the first time my family had ever been invited. To everyone else, It was just a party. To me, it was the battlefield. I spent the hours before the event rehearsing every step of what I needed to do. My evidence was organized loan agreements with forged signatures, bank statements, a digital folder filled with photos of Britney flashing cash and luxury bags she claimed were gifts. But the most important piece was the recording Britney's voice. Clear as day, bragging to her friend about what she'd done. The email chain from my parents, confirming their part in the fraud, was the final nail in the coffin. As the party began, I played my part smiling, making small talk, letting my colleagues introduce themselves to my parents and to Britney, who looked every bit the influencer in a glittering gold dress. My father told stories about raising 2 successful daughters. My mother laughed too loudly, and Britney basked in the attention. For an hour, it almost felt normal almost. Then, the speeches started. My boss was in the middle of congratulating the firm for another record year when I raised my hand and, with a calmness that surprised even me, said, "Excuse me. May I have the floor for a moment?" The room fell silent. I walked to the front, connected my laptop to the projector, and clicked to the first slide, a scan of the first forged loan document. I watched as Britney's eyes widened. My mother's face drained of color, and the room filled with uneasy whispers. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I began, my voice steady, "but I need to share something that's affected not only my career, but my entire life." I showed the second document, then the third. Each signature bore my name, but not my hand. As I explained, I could see shock and confusion ripple through the audience. Then, I played the recording. Britney's own voice rang out. "My sister doesn't even realize I use her info. What's she gonna do? Sue her own family?" The silence afterward was suffocating. Britney shot up, her voice trembling with rage. "This is insane, you're just jealous. You always have been." She glared at me, her hands balled into fists. "You think you're so perfect. Jessica, you have no idea what it's like to be me." My father tried to stand between us. "Let's talk about this privately. Jessica, this is family business, please." But I didn't budge. "No, Dad, this isn't just about family. It's about fraud, about betrayal, and about the fact that you both vouched for Britney when you knew she was lying." All eyes turned to my parents. My mother started sobbing. "Please, Jessica, don't do this. You know how hard it's been for Britney. We just wanted to help her get a fresh start." Someone from the HR department stepped forward. "Jessica, do you have any more evidence?" I nodded and pulled up the email chain, my parents confirming Britney's identity to the bank. At that moment, the final piece clicked into place. A bank manager joined the meeting via video call, confirming the timeline and the roles each of them had played. Britney crumbled, sobbing openly. The humiliation was complete. Every person in that ballroom saw exactly who she was. But I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt empty. My parents fell to their knees, begging me not to press charges, not to destroy the family. For the sake of family. "Jessica," my mother whispered, "please don't ruin your sister's life." I stood there, breathing in the heavy silence. "I didn't ruin her life," I said softly. "She did that all by herself." Mini hook. And that's when I realized the most powerful revenge isn't screaming or slamming doors. It's showing the truth in front of the world and letting people decide for themselves. But even then, my fight wasn't over. Now, I had to protect myself from the fallout and find a way to move forward alone. If I had to. The aftermath of that night rippled through every corner of my life. In the days that followed, the story spread first through office gossip, then through the legal world, and soon, inevitably, all over social media. The evidence was undeniable. The humiliation for Brittany and my parents was instant and public. But the real consequences were just beginning. For the first time, I didn't shout, threaten, or beg. I let the facts do all the work. My law firm's HR team quickly opened an internal investigation. They reviewed every piece of documentation I provided, forged loan papers, notary signatures, the digital trail from Brittany's devices, and the incriminating emails from my parents. Within 48 hours, I was fully cleared. My bosses called me in. "Jessica, you handled this with extraordinary professionalism. Your career here is safe. If anything, we're impressed by your strength under pressure." Brittany's downfall, though, was brutal and swift. Her Instagram, her pride, her income, her entire persona became a lightning rod for public outrage. Brands pulled their sponsorships. Influencer friends unfollowed in droves. The once glamorous Brittany was now at the center of a scandal, bombarded by hate comments and demands for apology. It turned out that people cared a lot more about honesty than about luxury handbags and poolside selfies. But it wasn't just Brittany who faced consequences. The story reached local news outlets. Journalists dug into the bank documents, uncovering the full extent of the fraud. Interviews with legal experts, former classmates, even neighbors filled my feed. Suddenly, the Millers weren't the picture-perfect family anymore. My parents' little grocery store, the one they'd built over decades, saw regulars vanish and new customers glare. That's the family who stole from their own daughter. I overheard someone whisper. Through it all, I kept my head down. I did not answer Brittany's pleading voicemails or my mother's tearful calls. My father sent a single text, "Please, Jess, this has gone too far." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. For the first time in my life, I was done fixing other people's mistakes. Instead, I focused on myself. I met with my lawyer, filed police reports, and started the long process of restoring my credit and untangling the mess Brittany left behind. It wasn't easy. The legal process dragged on for months: hearings, mediations, paperwork. But every time I walked into court, I remembered that night at the party, the moment I'd taken control of my own story. My boyfriend, Mark, came back into the picture. "You were right about them all along," he admitted, holding my hand across the table at our favorite coffee shop. Emma threw me a celebration dinner, a tiny, joyous moment in a year otherwise filled with heartache. She raised her glass and said, "To Jessica, the only person I know who can take on her entire family and win." Brittany tried everything: apologies, angry rants, even public posts blaming me for ruining her future. But the world didn't buy it. Her apologies rang hollow. The public had already chosen a side. The legal outcome was clear: Brittany was found guilty of identity theft and ordered to pay restitution. My parents received community service for their involvement in the fraud. The grocery store was sold off to cover debts. I never pressed for jail time. That wasn't what I wanted. I only wanted the truth to be undeniable and my own freedom back. Looking back, the most powerful revenge was never about destroying them. It was about reclaiming myself quietly, relentlessly. without ever losing control. The part of me that always forgave, always sacrificed. I finally learned to say no. After the storm faded, the silence in my life was deafening. For years, my world had been filled with obligations, phone calls from my parents, Brittany's endless demand, the low hum of anxiety that came from always trying to hold everything together. Now, all that remained was space. For the first time, I could hear myself think. The legal proceedings finished in late spring. Brittany was forced to repay as much as she could, though much of the money was long gone. My parents lost their grocery store, a business that, for decades, had been both a source of pride and a heavy chain. The media lost interest, moving on to the next scandal. But the damage was permanent. I had cut all ties with my family. I changed my phone number, updated my locks, and moved into a new apartment in the city, a place with light, quiet, and no ghosts. It was a lonely kind of freedom at first. There were days I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if I should have given them another chance, or if I'd really been too harsh. On those days, I'd replay that party in my mind, the forged signatures, the betrayal, the moment my mother begged me not to ruin Brittany's life, while never once apologizing for what they'd done to mine. Then, I remembered why I chose distance. I wasn't punishing them, I was protecting myself. Work became my anchor. My firm quietly promoted me. Recognizing the strength it took to handle such a personal and public crisis with grace, Mark and I started over slowly, carefully, without the shadow of my family hanging over us. Emma never left my side. For the first time, I built a chosen family of friends and colleagues who respected my boundaries and loved me for who I was, not for what I could do for them. One night, nearly a year later, Brittany sent a letter, an actual letter, handwritten, full of apologies and self-pity. She begged me to forgive her, to help her rebuild. She wrote, "I lost everything. Jess, I lost myself. My parents called, too, asking for a second chance, saying they missed the old days." I read Brittany's words. I listened to the voicemails. Then, I put the letter in a drawer and blocked their numbers. My answer was simple: when you made me lose everything, I learned how to start again. I hope you find that strength too. But this isn't just a story about revenge or even justice. It's about choosing yourself, even when it means standing alone. It's about the quiet power of saying enough, of refusing to let people who hurt you stay in your life just because you share blood. It's about breaking the cycle. Moral reflection. If you've ever been betrayed by the people you loved most, you're not alone. And you're not wrong for wanting better, for demanding respect, for choosing your own peace. Sometimes, the family isn't the people you're born with, it's the people who show up for you when you need them most. To everyone listening, what would you have done? Would you forgive? Or would you choose freedom? Share your thoughts below. I want to hear your stories. For me, I finally realized that no amount of sacrifice can save someone who refuses to change. The greatest victory is walking away, holding your head high, and building a life that is truly your own. A full year has passed since the night I stood in front of my family, my colleagues, and my world, exposing the truth I never wanted to believe. So much has changed that sometimes I barely recognize the person I was before, the daughter desperate for approval, the sister willing to forgive anything, the fixer who thought love meant sacrifice. Now, my life is quieter. Not empty, just peaceful in a way I didn't think was possible. I wake up in my new apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows. And I breathe a little easier. I've started running again. Something I gave up years ago because I never had time for myself. I go out with Emma and our friends on weekends, sharing laughter that isn't shadowed by obligation or guilt. Work is no longer my escape, it's my passion again. I took on a few pro bono cases, helping other victims of financial abuse, people who, like me, never thought their worst enemy would be family. Every now and then, I get reminders of my old life. Brittany tried to reach out one last time, sending an email filled with apologies, regret, and a request for help. My parents wrote letters carefully worded, full of memories and promises that family is forever. Each time, I felt a wave of sadness, but not temptation. My response was the same every time: silence. I realized that forgiveness does not always mean reconciliation. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is close the door and leave it closed. I found real strength in the community I built for myself. Emma introduced me to a support group for survivors of identity theft and family betrayal. I met people from all walks of life: teachers, doctors, even another attorney, each carrying their own stories of loss and recovery. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel ashamed. Mark and I are stronger than ever. Not because everything is perfect, but because we learned how to rebuild trust from the ground up. Without secrets or silent expectations, we started our own traditions: quiet dinners, weekend hikes. No more chaotic holidays with people who only showed up when they needed something. Looking back, I don't regret exposing the truth. I regret waiting so long to protect myself. If I could tell my younger self anything, it would be this: you are allowed to choose yourself. Even if it means standing alone, you are allowed to walk away from people who hurt you. No matter what name they call you: daughter, sister, friend. Sometimes I wonder what Brittany is doing now. If my parents ever learned anything. If they found some kind of peace. But that's their story, not mine. My story is about surviving, healing, and finding joy on my own terms. Final reflection: no one has the right to use family as an excuse to hurt you. You deserve to be safe, to be respected, and to be loved for who you are, not for what you can give. If you're listening and you see yourself in my story, I know this: you are not alone. You are stronger than you think. And your best life might just be waiting for you on the other side of goodbye. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share your own experience in the comments. Let's build a community where no one has to suffer in silence, and where choosing yourself is never something to be ashamed of.